Ever get that feeling? You know, like you're standing at the bottom of a mountain of information, I mean,
Oh, yeah,
unsure where to even, like, begin to climb.
totally,
That's what it's like browsing the Autodesk University website sometimes.
for sure.
Yeah.
Especially with AU 2024, what, like
Yeah.
2 days away now?
Right. Luckily. Well, we've got an expert with us today, someone who's climbed that mountain of AU content
Aha, good one.
and brought back all the best views from the top.
Well, I don't know about all that.
So, what's got you most excited about this year's conference?
You know, I think one of the first things that really struck me going through the AU website was just how much Autodesk seems to be really embracing this whole, like both the excitement of the in-person event, but then also making things accessible online at the same time.
Right.
They've got this whole learn online section, right? And it goes way beyond just like posting recordings after the event.
Oh, yeah.
We're talking keynotes, sessions on basically everything, AutoCAD, BIM 360, Dynamo,
Yeah.
APS, Forge, Fusion 360, Revit, all available online.
It's like they're saying, you don't have to be in Vegas to experience the energy of AU.
Exactly. And it's not even just about convenience at that point.
Mm-hmm.
Making those resources available online, it really speaks volumes about Autodesk's commitment to, I don't know, making learning accessible, period.
Right. Which makes perfect sense when you think about it.
Yeah.
Not everyone has the time or resources to just jet off to a conference,
Yeah.
no matter how amazing it is, right?
Exactly. And honestly,
Well,
I think it also reflects this broader trend, like we're seeing online education and just professional development in general it's becoming so much more common these days. And the technology and the approaches, they're getting so sophisticated.
so for our listeners who maybe, this is their first time hearing all this, what exactly are these different platforms? Like when we say BIM 360 or Forge, what are those? What could someone expect to learn from those online sessions?
Oh, that's a great question. Okay, so for those who aren't familiar, right? BIM 360. It's this cloud-based platform, right?
Yeah.
And it helps architects, engineers, construction professionals, basically anyone working on a building project.
Mm-hmm.
It helps them collaborate. And what's really cool, it's in real time.
Oh, wow.
So you're cutting down on errors, improving efficiency, all those things that save time and money in the long run,
Right.
And then you've got Forge. Think of Forge as like a toolkit, basically. But it's for developers.
Mhm.
Developers who want to build their own custom applications on top of Autodesk software.
Oh, interesting.
So if you're, I don't know, if you want to automate tasks, analyze data, or even create totally new workflows that no one's even thought of before, those Forge sessions
Yeah.
could be like pure gold, I think.
It's amazing how much ground they cover at AU. It's like you're browsing through a catalog of the future or something.
I know, right?
And speaking of catalogs, have you had a chance to even peek at the session catalog yet?
Oh, yeah?
Because I've got to say, even just glancing at the titles has me ready to, like, book a flight.
Me too.
I mean, there's one here, The Future of Filmmaking with AI-Powered Visual Effects. I mean, come on. Who wouldn't want to know more about that?
Right. And that one just like immediately got me thinking about how AI is going to completely change the game for filmmakers.
Yeah.
I mean, imagine being able to just like create these stunning visual effects that would have been impossible before or would have taken like forever to do manually.
It's like giving these filmmakers superpowers or something.
Totally.
So what other sessions did you have circled on your list?
Okay, let me see. There was one that really caught my eye. It was called Designing for Climate Resilience.
Oh, interesting.
It's one thing to, talk about sustainability in theory. But this session seems like it's all about real-world solutions. Like, for the architects and engineers who are literally on the front lines of this whole thing, building a more climate-resilient future for all of us.
And that's what I love about AU. It's not just about, showcasing the shiny new tech, which is cool, don't get me wrong, but it's about tackling the big challenges too, the things that really matter.
Right.
And it makes you realize that, designers, they have such a bigger role to play now than ever before.
I completely agree. And that's why I think this next session I'm going to mention is so fascinating. It's called Building the Metaverse, a collaborative design approach.
Okay, now hold on. Are we talking like full-on Ready Player One here? Because if so, sign me up.
Well, I mean, it's not quite that immersive yet, at least as far as I know. But it does highlight how, like, architects are now working with game designers and technologists, all these different people coming together to figure out how to shape these virtual worlds that are being built.
It's such a great example of how those old industry lines are just completely blurring now.
Totally.
It's not just about designing a building or a product even anymore, right? It's about creating these experiences that go way beyond the physical world.
Exactly. And, speaking of blurring those lines, like between industries, I mean, one of the things that really jumped out at me on the AU website
Yeah.
was how much emphasis Autodesk is putting on making this a global thing.
Yeah, we talked about the learn online aspect,
Right.
which definitely opens things up for people who can't be there in person.
Right.
But it sounds like you're seeing something even more intentional than that.
Yeah, for sure. It's not just about like making the content available after the fact.
Mm.
It's about trying to foster those connections during the actual event too,
Yeah.
even for the people attending virtually.
Interesting.
So they have this really cool feature. It's called Connect with Attendees. And you can basically search for people based on, I don't know, their interests, their industries, even the specific sessions they're planning to attend.
Wow. So I could be sitting here at my computer, let's say I'm in, I don't know, Tokyo or something.
Right.
And I could strike up a conversation with someone in like Berlin who's also super interested in generative design or, I don't know, sustainable infrastructure, whatever. That's pretty cool.
And I think it really highlights how this whole idea of a conference, what it even means, it's changing so fast.
Right.
It's not about being in the same physical space anymore,
Yeah.
necessarily. It's more about, I don't know, just creating those connections no matter where you are in the world.
It's like they're building a virtual bridge between people, which is really cool.
Yeah.
Especially these days when, things are so spread out.
Yeah, for sure.
And it makes the whole thing feel less like a one-time event,
Totally.
and more like the start of, I don't know, some kind of ongoing conversation or something.
You hit the nail on the head. Because the challenge with any conference, even an amazing one, right,
Hmm.
is figuring out how to keep that momentum going when it's over.
Right.
Like, how do you take all that knowledge, all those connections you made,
Yeah.
and actually turn it into something real, something lasting?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
It really is.
It's so easy to get caught up in the energy of the event,
Right.
and then it's over.
Exactly.
So for our listeners out there who maybe, they're not going to be walking the halls of the conference center this year,
Right.
do you have any tips for them? Like, how can they get the most out of AU 2024, even if they're, attending from afar?
Well, absolutely.
Yeah.
First and foremost, be intentional.
Yeah.
Like, don't just passively sit there and take in whatever's thrown at you.
Mm.
Really think about what you want to get out of it.
Okay.
Actively seek out the sessions and the speakers that like really resonate with you. Things that challenge your assumptions, maybe?
So that's where that mock schedule idea comes in handy.
Exactly.
Like create your own personalized AU roadmap.
Totally. And as you're doing that, right, pay attention to the speakers too. Because
Mhm.
AEU always manages to attract some like seriously brilliant minds.
Right.
So take advantage of that.
Now, I've noticed a lot of the sessions are structured as presentations. Are there opportunities for like live Q&A with the speakers?
Oh yeah, definitely. A lot of them have Q&A built right into the schedule.
Mm.
And what's even cooler, for the people attending virtually, there's often a live chat feature.
Yeah.
So you can submit questions in real time.
That's great. It's one thing to listen to someone talk about their work,
Right.
but to actually engage with them directly,
Oh.
ask those clarifying questions, maybe even get some advice tailored to your situation.
Totally.
That's invaluable.
Absolutely. And don't underestimate connecting with the other attendees too, by the way.
Yeah, good point.
Whether it's through the online platform or even just, I don't know, jumping into the conversation on social media.
Right.
Because sharing your takeaways, asking questions, having those discussions, it really helps solidify the learning.
Totally.
And it exposes you to new perspectives, which is always a good thing.
It's funny, we always think of conferences as being primarily about gaining knowledge,
Right.
but what you're highlighting here is the importance of connection,
Really.
of being part of a community and how crucial that is.
Yes. And honestly, I'd argue that those connections are often what makes the knowledge stick in the first place.
That makes sense.
Because when you have a network of people, right,
Yeah.
people who are grappling with the same challenges, excited about the same things, it creates this like feedback loop of learning and inspiration.
Right. It's like the difference between reading a book by yourself
Right.
and joining a book club to talk about it with other people.
Exactly.
That discussion, that shared experience, it adds a whole other dimension.
Totally. Oh, and speaking of shared experiences, have you had a chance to check out the AU blog at all?
I haven't actually. Is it updated regularly?
Oh, yeah, constantly.
Okay, cool.
They've got posts from like industry leaders,
Yeah.
Autodesk staff, even just attendees sharing their own experiences and insights.
Oh, cool.
So it's a nice way to get a feel for the vibe of the conference,
Right.
even if you're not there.
I love that. It makes the whole thing feel so much more inclusive,
Mm.
and well-rounded.
Yeah, definitely.
Because it shows that AU isn't just about, Autodesk showing off its products. It's about creating this platform for the entire community, right?
Totally.
Designers, makers, everyone, to connect with each other and be inspired.
Exactly. And that actually reminds me of another thing. Something else I think is really crucial for anyone who's, you know, browsing the AU website.
Hmm.
Get familiar with the sponsors and exhibitors beforehand.
Oh, interesting. So we talked about the expo,
Right.
but you're saying it's worth going a step further
Yeah.
and really looking into the companies that are supporting AU.
Yes.
Why is that so important?
Because those sponsors, especially, right, they play a huge role in shaping the direction of the entire conference.
Oh, interesting.
These are the companies that are like literally investing in the future of these industries.
Right.
So their involvement, it can tell you a lot about where things are headed,
That's a great point.
like what the emerging trends are, the areas that are ripe for growth.
It's like you're looking beyond the individual sessions and even beyond the exhibits themselves
Right.
to understand the bigger picture, the forces driving innovation in these fields.
Yes, exactly.
So how do you recommend people approach that? Just like browse through the sponsor list.
Well, browse, yeah, but don't just browse, like engage with them a little.
Okay, interesting.
Because a lot of these companies, right, they're going to have booths at the expo, of course.
Okay.
But even if you're not there in person, you can still check out their websites,
Right.
see what they're up to on social media, maybe even shoot them an email. You'd be surprised.
Yeah, good point.
It's all about being proactive,
Yeah.
Using AU as this kind of like launch pad to explore further,
I like that.
even if you can't physically be there.
So it's like AU is the tip of the iceberg.
Right.
And then by looking into these companies, you're suddenly seeing like this whole other part below the surface.
Exactly. Because you might find, I don't know, your next job, maybe.
Right.
Or a cool company you want to collaborate with. Or even just some new idea that gets you excited.
Totally. That's what I love about this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So we're coming up on the end of our AU deep dive here. It's been quite a journey. I'm feeling, I don't know about you, but inspired, definitely
Yeah.
a little overwhelmed maybe just because there's so much to take in,
Right.
but definitely ready to go explore that AU website with like a fresh set of eyes now.
For sure. It's a lot to process, for sure.
It is.
But if you take away just one thing from this whole conversation, I hope it's that, the future of all this, of design, of making things, it's being decided right now.
That's a great point.
And whether you're at AU 2024 in person or, following along from home, you have a role to play in shaping that future.
I love that. Okay, so to our listeners out there,
Yes.
as that countdown timer on the AU website gets closer and closer to zero,
Getting close.
we'll leave you with this question. If you could only attend one session at AU 2024 or visit one exhibitor, which one would it be and why? Let us know in the comments. Until next time, happy designing, everyone.
Happy designing.